The crimson lightning tore through space as the Terran Republic flagship Starfall crumbled under the relentless assault of Krill bioships. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers across its hull, each blast echoing through the cramped corridors where desperate souls fought for survival. In the medical bay, Ilara Voss clutched her newborn son against her chest. Baby Kai's cries pierced through the chaos, a defiant symphony against the approaching doom. The ship shuddered violently as another plasma blast found its mark. All hands, abandon ship. The captain's voice crackled through failing communications. Ilara's hands trembled as she strapped Kai into the last functioning escape pod. Her tears froze on his tiny face as she whispered a prayer to the uncaring cosmos. With a final kiss on his forehead, she launched the pod into the swirling depths of the Xyos Nebula. The escape pod careened through space, its systems failing one by one. Sparks flew from damaged circuits as it tumbled toward the nebula's heart, a region shrouded in myth and feared by even the bravest starfarers. Legends spoke of dragons, ancient beings who guarded the nebula's secrets. Most dismissed these tales as radiation-induced hallucinations. But the dragons were real. Ignis, a colossal emerald dragon with scales that shimmered like liquid starlight, sensed the pod's desperate trajectory. Her golden eyes, pools of molten wisdom, narrowed as she intercepted the tiny vessel. The pod's hull was scorched and breached, barely holding together. Inside, Kai had miraculously survived. His pale skin seemed translucent against the darkness of space, his dark hair a stark contrast to the tattered thermal blanket wrapped around him. He looked impossibly fragile, a creature utterly out of place in the harsh environment of the nebula. But something about him resonated within Ignis. Perhaps it was his tenacious will to survive, or maybe an echo of some forgotten promise. She had watched countless civilizations rise and fall, seen entire star systems extinguished. Could this tiny spark rekindle hope in a dying universe? The decision came instantly. Ignoring the ancient laws of her kind, the isolation they had embraced for millennia, Ignis cradled the human child in her massive claws. His tiny hand grasped one of her scales, a gesture of trust that pierced through her hardened exterior. She would raise him. Protect him. Teach him the ways of the dragons. As she soared back toward her hidden eyrie, nestled deep within the heart of a dying star, a chilling premonition settled upon her. This child's destiny was intertwined with a darkness far greater than the Krill, a darkness that threatened to consume not just the galaxy, but reality itself. The abandoned human baby, raised by dragons, would face trials unlike any other. But first, he would need to grow, to learn, and to discover the power that lay dormant within him. In the cosmic graveyard of Xyos, where stellar giants had painted the void with strokes of violet, crimson, and gold, a new chapter was beginning. The nebula pulsed with bioluminescent life, its gravity-defying asteroid chains dancing in intricate patterns while cosmic dust formed natural shields. It was a harsh, beautiful, and utterly alien ecosystem, perfectly suited to the dragons who called it home. And now, it would shelter the last hope of the human race. 20 years had passed since Ignis found Kai drifting in the void. The Xyos Nebula had become his universe, a realm where reality bent to the will of ancient magic and dragon fire painted the cosmic canvas. Kai had grown into a young man unlike any other. Raised in the heart of the eyrie, a magnificent city carved from living asteroid rock, he moved with the fluid grace of the dragons while retaining the quick wit and adaptability of humanity. The dragons, initially wary of the human pup, had grown to love him as family. They taught him their sacred language, the tongue of stars themselves. Under Ignis's patient guidance, he learned to read the shifting patterns of the nebula, predicting cosmic storms with uncanny accuracy. He mastered aerial combat on makeshift wings, his laughter echoing through the crystal canyons as he soared alongside his dragon siblings. But it was Obsidian who pushed him hardest. The brooding black-scaled warrior had lost his own rider to the Krill years ago. In Kai, he saw a chance for redemption, and revenge. His training was merciless, demanding perfection at every turn. "Weakness is a luxury we cannot afford," Obsidian would growl, his voice like grinding stone. The galaxy beyond these nebulae is unforgiving. You must be stronger. Despite his harsh methods, Obsidian cared deeply for Kai. He knew better than anyone what horrors awaited in the wider universe. His goal wasn't just to create a warrior, it was to forge a hero capable of standing against the darkness. During a routine patrol beyond the nebula's edge, Kai's world shattered. He discovered a derelict Krill bioship, its organic hull scarred by plasma burns. The vessel's data core was miraculously intact. As Kai probed its corrupted files, a message flashed across his scanner. Target, Ignis. Asset retrieval. Dragon hybrid project initiated. The words hit him like a supernova. He wasn't just a random survivor, he was created. Manufactured. A weapon designed in laboratories and abandoned when deemed a failure. Racing back to the Eyrie, Kai found Ignis overlooking the nebula, her emerald scales catching the light of distant stars. The confrontation was inevitable. Ignis, he began, his voice barely a whisper. I found something on that Krill wreck. They called me a dragon hybrid project. Said you were the asset. Silence stretched between them like a void. Finally, Ignis spoke, her voice heavy with pain. It is partially true, she admitted. During the war's darkest hour, the Terran Republic attempted to create hybrid warriors, beings with dragon strength and human adaptability. I was captured, experimented upon. My DNA was harvested. She turned to face him, golden eyes filled with anguish. The project was deemed unethical and terminated. All embryos were supposedly destroyed. I never knew they had salvaged one until I found you. Kai felt anger and betrayal war with the love he held for his adoptive mother. So I am just a weapon to you. A laboratory creation. Never, Ignis said firmly, stepping forward. You are my son, Kai. The Krill sought to control you, to weaponize you. But I raised you with love, instilled in you values they could never corrupt. Your destiny belongs to you alone. Obsidian emerged from the shadows, his black scales glinting. The Krill will come for him now that they know he exists. They'll stop at nothing to reclaim their creation. He fixed Kai with an intense stare. You have a choice, young one. Remain here as a prisoner of your own doubts, or embrace your destiny and fight back. The galaxy needs you, whether you were born of science or miracle. Kai looked between his dragon family, their faces etched with concern and determination. The weight of destiny pressed upon his shoulders, but beneath the burden, he felt something else stirring, purpose. I will fight, he declared, his voice ringing with newfound resolve. I'll discover who I truly am, and I'll make the Krill pay for what they've done. But before any plans could be made, the piercing shriek of alarm klaxons shattered the moment. The sky above Xyos darkened as Krill bioships emerged from the nebula's depths, not dozens, but hundreds. Their chitinous hulls gleamed with predatory intent. This wasn't a random attack. It was a calculated incursion, targeting the heart of the Eyrie with chilling precision. The Krill had found them. To battle stations. Ignis roared, her voice thundering across the asteroid canyons. We defend our home. Dragons of all ages responded instantly, their eyes burning with righteous fury. Kai donned his dragon-forged armor, the familiar weight comforting against his skin, and joined the defenders. The battle that followed was a maelstrom of fire and fury. Krill bioships spat corrosive plasma while dragons answered with torrents of flame. The peaceful Eyrie transformed into a war zone, its ancient stones bearing fresh scars from explosive impacts. Kai fought with supernatural grace, his Terran blade carving through Krill warriors with precision born of both human ingenuity and dragon training. But the enemy's numbers seemed endless, their assault relentless. As the battle raged, one truth became clear: this was only the beginning. The Krill had come to reclaim their lost weapon, and they would stop at nothing to succeed. The Krill assault intensified with each passing moment. Their bioships moved like living nightmares through the nebula, spitting death from organic weapon clusters. The dragons fought valiantly, but even their ancient power seemed insufficient against such overwhelming numbers. Kai carved through the enemy ranks, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dance between plasma blasts that would have vaporized normal humans. Every strike of his blade was precise, every movement calculated. Yet for all his skill, the battle's tide was turning against them. Through the chaos, he spotted Ignis locked in combat with a massive Krill commander. The creature's razor-sharp claws dripped with venom as it pressed its attack against the emerald dragon. Despite her size and power, Ignis was faltering, deep gashes marred her magnificent scales, and her movements grew sluggish. Horror filled Kai's heart as the commander unleashed a devastating energy blast. Ignis spiraled toward the ground, her roar of pain echoing across the battlefield. No! Kai's voice tore from his throat as he launched himself toward the commander. The creature turned its multifaceted eyes toward him, mandibles clicking with anticipation. It was larger and stronger than Kai, but he possessed something it lacked, speed born of desperation and love. He danced around the commander's attacks, his blades singing through the air. When the creature lunged with its venomous claws, Kai saw his opening. Channeling the energy of Xyos itself, the power of the dragons flowing through his hybrid blood, he drove his blade deep into the commander's heart. The creature's death shriek shattered the air before it collapsed in a heap of twitching chitin. Around them, the remaining Krill forces began to falter, their coordination broken by their leader's fall. But victory came at a terrible price. Kai rushed to Ignis's side, finding her breathing shallow and labored. Her golden eyes struggled to focus on his face. "Ignis, please," he whispered, cradling her massive head. "Don't leave me." "Kai," she breathed, her voice barely audible. "You fought, bravely. I am, proud." Obsidian landed beside them, his black scales scorched and battered. "The Krill are retreating," he reported grimly, "but this isn't over. They'll return with greater numbers." His ancient eyes filled with sorrow as he examined Ignis's wounds. "She needs healing, and quickly. There's only one place with power enough to save her, the Crystal Caves of Ethel." Kai had heard whispered legends of the Crystal Caves, a sacred place deep within Xyos where the nebula's energy converged. They were said to possess healing powers beyond imagination, but the journey was treacherous. "I'll take her," Kai declared without hesitation. "Whatever it costs." Obsidian nodded gravely. "I'll gather escorts, but be warned, the Krill know what Ignis means to you. They'll try to stop us." As preparations began, a young dragon named Lyra approached. Her scales shimmered with vibrant blue, and determination sparkled in her eyes. "I'm coming with you," she announced. "Ignis has always been kind to me. I won't let her die." Kai hesitated, knowing the dangers they would face, but he recognized the same loyalty in her that burned within his own heart. "Thank you, Lyra. I'd be honored to have you by my side." Obsidian assembled a compact but formidable team, 2 battle-hardened warriors whose scales rivaled starship armor, plus the quick-witted Lyra. They carefully secured Ignis onto a specialized transport sled and ventured into the nebula's uncharted regions. The journey tested every skill they possessed. They navigated asteroid fields as complex as spider webs, evaded Krill patrol ships that stalked them from the shadows, and weathered radiation storms that threatened to strip the scales from their bones. Kai remained at Ignis's side throughout, his hand resting on her flank as he monitored her weakening pulse. Each labored breath reminded him that time was running out. On the 3rd day, as they sheltered in a canyon carved from a massive asteroid, Lyra approached with troubling news. "Kai," she whispered, "I've been analyzing the Krill attack patterns. They're not just hunting us, they're hurting us. Leading us somewhere specific." Kai's blood turned to ice. "Where?" With a trembling claw, Lyra pointed toward a subtle distortion in the nebula's fabric, a barely visible anomaly that flickered in the starlight. "The Shadow Rift," she breathed. "The forbidden zone where reality itself becomes unstable." Kai had heard ancient legends of the Shadow Rift, a tear in spacetime that served as a gateway to dimensions beyond comprehension. If the Krill were driving them toward that cursed place, it could only mean they planned to unleash something catastrophic upon the galaxy. He gazed at Ignis, her face pale with pain, and felt the weight of an impossible choice. Continue toward the crystal caves and risk arriving too late to save her, or confront the Krill at the Shadow Rift and potentially doom her to save countless others. Meeting the eyes of his companions, Lyra, Obsidian, the two dragon warriors, he saw the same understanding reflected in their faces. The fate of Xyos, perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. "We change course," Kai declared, his voice steady despite the pain in his heart. "We're going to the Shadow Rift." The decision would cost them everything. But sometimes, the greatest love requires the greatest sacrifice. The approach to the Shadow Rift transformed their journey into a descent through cosmic madness. The vibrant colors of the Xyos Nebula drained away, replaced by a sickening purple bruise that seemed to devour starlight itself. Reality became unreliable. Asteroid chains shattered and reformed in impossible configurations. Distant stars flickered mockingly before winking out of existence entirely. Even the dragons, paragons of stoic resolve, grew visibly agitated as corruption spread through their surroundings. Obsidian, veteran of countless battles, bore a weight in his ancient eyes that spoke of approaching doom. "I've seen wars that consumed star systems," he murmured, "but this is different. The very laws of physics are breaking down." As they neared the rift itself, a swirling vortex of impenetrable darkness that pulsed with malevolent intent, their worst fears materialized. Hundreds of Krill bioships emerged from the shadows with terrifying speed, their chitinous hulls gleaming with predatory purpose. This was no skirmish. It was a full-scale assault designed to prevent them from reaching the rift at any cost. The dragon warriors unleashed torrents of fire and plasma, their defiant roars echoing across the void. But the Krill were relentless, their numbers seemingly infinite, their attacks growing more ferocious with each passing moment. Kai fought alongside his dragon family, weaving through the chaos with speed born of both human ingenuity and dragon training. But they were outgunned, outnumbered, and being steadily pushed back toward the rift's gaping maw. Then disaster struck with brutal suddenness. A stray Krill plasma blast slammed into their transport sled with devastating force, severing the energy conduit that sustained Ignis's fragile life support systems. The sled lurched violently, throwing sparks and debris, before tipping over and sending Ignis crashing onto the jagged asteroid surface. Kai rushed to her side, his heart seizing with terror. He desperately fought to reconnect the severed conduit, but the damage was too extensive. In the heat of battle, with death raining from above, Ignis's breathing grew increasingly shallow. Her golden eyes, once bright as molten suns, began to dim. "Ignis," he cried, his voice raw with anguish. "Please, hold on. I'll fix this." But even as the words left his lips, he knew it was too late. The light of her indomitable spirit was fading like a dying ember. As Ignis's life force finally flickered and went dark, something fundamental changed within Kai. The overwhelming grief transformed into a blinding rage that eclipsed everything else, a primal need for vengeance that transcended his human limitations. He rose slowly, his dragon-forged armor gleaming with ominous intensity in the rift's ethereal light. His ancestral Terran blade, now clutched in trembling hands, became a symbol of both his heritage and his enhanced power. He was no longer just Kai, the orphaned human raised by dragons. He had become something greater, a force of nature unleashed upon a galaxy teetering on the brink of annihilation. His roar transcended language itself, echoing across the battlefield with a promise of death to every Krill that dared stand in his path. But even as fury propelled him forward, doubt whispered in the darkest corners of his mind. He was still just one man against hundreds of heavily armed bioships and whatever horrors awaited within the Shadow Rift. What difference could he possibly make? Then a memory surfaced, Ignis teaching him to fly as a clumsy boy, falling repeatedly from the cliffs, his spirit bruised by countless failures. "You must never give up, little one," she had said, her voice warm with conviction. The essence of the sky already resides within you. You only need to have faith in yourself. Kai shook his head, dispelling the tendrils of doubt. He wasn't alone. He had never been alone. Obsidian was fighting valiantly nearby, his breath weapon incinerating Krill by the dozens. Lyra was using her intellect and agility to outmaneuver enemy forces, disabling their weapon systems with precise strikes. The dragon warriors continued their defiant stand despite grievous wounds. They were all risking their lives to honor Ignis's memory, to protect the principles she held dear. Closing his eyes, Kai reached out with every fiber of his being, not just to his human heritage, but to the raw energy of Xyos, to the ancient power of the dragons that now coursed through his blood. He felt strength surge through his veins, sharpening his senses and replacing despair with determination. More importantly, he felt hope ignite within his heart, pushing back the shadows and illuminating the path ahead. He was not simply a weapon forged in a laboratory. He was Kai, the dragon hybrid, the bridge between worlds, the unlikely savior of a galaxy in crisis. And he would not break. He would not falter. With renewed purpose, he turned toward the swirling vortex of the Shadow Rift, toward the inevitable confrontation with his ultimate destiny. He would face whatever horrors awaited within that chaotic abyss. Lyra appeared at his side, her blue scales reflecting the rift's eerie glow. "What's the plan, Kai?" He met her gaze, a faint smile chasing away the shadows of despair. "We're going to shut that rift down, Lyra. For good." The final battle was about to begin. Kai knew he couldn't destroy the rift alone, but he had a plan. The Krill wanted something from the other side, a power they couldn't access without help. He would give it to them, but on his terms. "Obsidian," he called out over the din of battle, his face grim with resolve. "I need you to create a diversion. Draw as many of those bioships away from the rift as possible. Give me space to work." The black-scaled warrior nodded, understanding the weight of the moment. "It will be done," he rumbled. "But be warned, this may be our last stand." With a deafening roar, Obsidian and the remaining dragon warriors launched themselves into the fray, drawing the Krill's attention away from Kai and Lyra. Their sacrifice bought precious time, but Kai knew it wouldn't last long. Racing toward the Shadow Rift, dodging plasma blasts and diving Krill fighters, Kai and Lyra pushed through the increasingly chaotic environment. The closer they got, the more reality warped around them. Gravity shifted erratically, making it difficult to maintain balance. The air crackled with strange energies that raised the hair on their skin. But they pressed on, driven by the unwavering need to stop the Krill. As they reached the edge of the rift, a monstrous figure emerged from the darkness itself. The Krill Overlord, a being of immense power and malice, rose before them. Its chitinous body pulsated with corrupt energy, and its multifaceted eyes burned with ancient hatred. "You cannot stop us, hybrid," it hissed, its voice like grinding metal. "The power of the Shadow Rift will be ours. The universe will kneel before the Krill swarm." Kai drew his blade, the metal singing with barely contained energy. "Not if I have anything to say about it. This ends here." The battle was fierce and brutal beyond anything Kai had ever experienced. The Krill Overlord unleashed blasts of dark energy that warped reality around them, creating impossible geometries and temporal distortions. Kai dodged and weaved, using his dragon-enhanced speed and agility to avoid attacks that could have erased him from existence. Lyra, displaying courage beyond her years, used her technical skills to hack into the Overlord's biomechanical systems, disrupting its attacks and creating openings for Kai to strike. But the creature was too powerful, its regenerative abilities allowing it to shrug off wounds that would have felled lesser beings. When the Overlord's massive claw sent Lyra sprawling across the asteroid's surface, leaving her vulnerable, Kai knew he had to act fast. The creature advanced on her with killing intent, its mandibles clicking in anticipation. Time seemed to slow as Kai made his choice. He couldn't defeat the Overlord through strength alone, but he could channel everything he had learned, everything he had become, into one decisive moment. Focusing all his energy, Kai drew upon the power of Xyos itself, the spirit of the dragons, the courage of humanity, and the love Ignis had shown him. His blade began to glow with stellar fire as he channeled forces beyond mortal comprehension. For Ignis, he roared, charging toward the Overlord with his weapon raised high. The Overlord turned just as Kai's blade found its mark, plunging deep into the creature's heart. The being's scream echoed across dimensions, a sound of pure agony and disbelief that something so small could bring down something so mighty. The Overlord exploded in a shower of corrupt energy, its death cry rippling through the shadow rift itself. Without its controlling intelligence, the rift began to collapse, the chaotic energies imploding inward with catastrophic force. Lyra! Kai shouted, grabbing his friend and leaping away from the collapsing rift. The implosion created a gravitational maelstrom that threatened to drag everything into its hungry maw. Just as they were about to be consumed, Obsidian appeared, his powerful wings beating against the chaotic forces. He grasped both young heroes in his claws and fought against the rift's pull with every ounce of his ancient strength. With a final, cataclysmic implosion that shook the foundations of reality, the shadow rift collapsed in upon itself, sealing shut forever. The source of the Krill's power had been severed, the encroaching darkness banished from Xyos. The remaining Krill forces, now leaderless and demoralized, scattered in panicked disarray, fleeing into the darkest corners of the nebula. The threat that had loomed over the galaxy for so long was finally ended. Kai and Lyra crashed onto the asteroid's surface, battered and exhausted but miraculously alive. The surviving dragons emerged from the wreckage, their triumphant roars echoing across the scarred landscape. Obsidian approached Kai, his ancient eyes radiating warmth and pride despite his gruff exterior. "You did it, young one," he said, his voice unusually soft. "You saved us all. You have honored Ignis's memory in a way that words cannot express." Kai looked around at his dragon family, at Lyra, at the warriors who had fought so valiantly by his side. His heart swelled with gratitude even as grief for Ignis threatened to overwhelm him. He had saved Xyos, but the cost had been devastating. In the years that followed, Kai dedicated himself to rebuilding the shattered area. He created a lasting sanctuary for all dragons, a haven where they could live in peace, forever free from the threat of exploitation. He knew that darkness would always lurk somewhere in the galaxy, but he also knew that as long as there were those willing to stand and fight for what was right, there would always be hope. Kai remained on Xyos, embracing his role as both guardian and protector, a living bridge between the worlds of humanity and dragonkind. He became a symbol of unity and courage for a galaxy that desperately needed both. The abandoned human baby who had been raised by dragons, the genetically engineered hybrid who had defied his creator's intentions, had finally found his true place in the cosmos. He lifted his gaze toward the star-studded heavens, remembering Ignis's words that had guided him through his darkest hours. "The essence of the sky already resides within you, little one," she had said. "You only need to embrace your potential and allow that power to soar." He had found that power within himself. He had embraced it without reservation. And he had become the hero the galaxy needed, not because he was born to greatness, but because he chose to rise above his limitations and fight for what he believed in. Years later, when new threats emerged from the depths of space, when young dragons spoke of distant wars and forgotten evils stirring in the void, Kai would be ready. He would stand as he had always stood, as a guardian of hope, a defender of the innocent, and a testament to the power of love over darkness. The stars themselves seemed to whisper his name in gratitude, carrying the legend of the dragon hybrid across the galaxy. And in the nebula of Xyos, where crystal formations caught and reflected the light of distant suns, children, both human and dragon, would grow up hearing tales of Kai, the foundling who became a hero, the hybrid who saved the universe. His story had become eternal, woven into the very fabric of the cosmos itself. And though Ignis was gone, her love lived on in every choice he made, every life he protected, every moment he chose hope over despair. The abandoned baby had indeed found his sky, and in doing so, had given the entire galaxy reason to believe in tomorrow. The end.